Welcome to Ion Franchising, where you will learn the A to Z's of franchise. Back to another fabulous episode. At least I hope. No, it's going to be a fabulous one, I promise. Got two great guys, Ion Franchising, Lance Gralick. I am the host. So today we are going to talk home services, one of my favorite categories of the world of franchising. Two guests today. The first gentleman, 15 years in the world of franchising. He is the executive director of franchise development for this fabulous brand. Welcome to the show, Luke Schulte. And the brand today is Handyman Connection. Welcome, Luke.
Thanks, Lance. So excited to be here.
Well, I am so excited that we have you on. And even more exciting than you is the man, the myth, the legend coming up next. So this guy, 32 years. He doesn't even look that old.
No.
And 32 years in the world of franchising and home services. And he's going to tell you this wonderful story. So he's the president and CEO of Handyman Connection. This is Mr. Jeff Wall. So welcome, Jeff. How you doing?
Thanks, Lance. Appreciate the intro there. And no, Luke, I'm not more important than you.
No, you guys are both awesome. So guys, let's start with the history. How the heck did you get into franchising? What were your intentions in life? I always love to hear the story of how people get into franchising, because in some cases it's like this lab accident gone wrong, like how Spider-Man became Spider-Man. So let's start off with that stuff.
Yeah, so I'll mine's a little bit shorter, so it'll be more succinct here. But no, I went to art school, and so I have a degree in painting, drawing, and printmaking, which means I'm qualified to ask you if you would like that coffee in a tall grande or venti cup.
Would you like fries with that?
Yeah. So after college, I decided I want to move to Chicago, where Jeff's from. Didn't meet Jeff then. But I took the first job that would cover my living expenses, and that happened to be with a commercial cleaning franchise. And that's kind of how I got my feet wet in franchising. That was an interesting business. I got to see some good, some bad, and some super ugly stuff. Left the world of franchising because it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And then my uncle was the one that reintroduced me to home services. Specifically, business to customer, related businesses, and fell in love with home services and haven't looked back.
Love it. Wonderful. And so Jeff, let's hear this. This is going to be a good one.
Oh boy. Luke was very succinct there. I'm going to bring you back. So I was going to school at the University of Illinois. So go Illini. And I was a finance and business major. And after my freshman year of college, I had an internship at a major bank downtown Chicago. I was going on the train every morning, suit and tie. This was, with all the businessmen, businesswomen, getting up early, I actually had an office or a cubicle back in 1989. And I worked at this big bank. And I remember coming home after a few weeks of being at this bank. It was a paid internship too. And I looked at my mom and I'm like, Mom, I hate this. Like, I'm screwed. She's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, Mom, I don't like business. I don't like working at the bank. I'm in trouble and I'm a business major. He's like, well, Jeff, that's why they call it a job, right? Thanks, Mom. So I continued doing this. And again, for those of your audience, 1989 was awesome for a lot of different things, but the internet didn't exist at that point. So killing time in 1989 or back in the old days was a bit more challenging. You couldn't just get lost on TikTok and
or Facebook
or the apps. There was nothing to do, and not that I thought I should be running the bank, but I felt I was underutilized. So I go back to school my sophomore year, still in the dorm rooms at Illinois, and I got a flyer under my dorm room door that said, earn $10,000 next summer. And I was like, well, this is probably a scam, but you know what? I'm going to see what this is. And again, back in the time, I had to actually fill out what's called a business reply card, tear it off, send it in the mail, and I waited to hear back. And this gentleman called and proceeded to tell me that I could run my own business next year. And I was like, sure could. He's like, it's a painting business. And I'm like, I don't know how to paint. no problem. We'll teach you. Okay.
Love it.
I'm like, well, I don't have any money. And he's like, no problem. We're gonna, upfront all your costs.
Wow.
So I'm like, earn $10,000. I have this job at this bank that I don't like. So I go home and I was given I was given an interview, and I was sitting in a vacant apartment building. And this gentleman's like, we're a Canadian-based company. And literally I'm sitting on the countertop, looking around going, I'm a fool. Like, I'm the idiot, right? He doesn't have furniture, right? And he's trying to tell me that I can run my own business, right? And again, 1989, no internet. I can't do any research. Canadian-based company, right?
You take so you believe him.
How all good love stories
right?
start.
And he gives me, what back in the day was called a UFOC, a Uniform Franchise Offering Circular.
The UFOC.
Yep. And now exactly. Now we refer to it more, better terms than FDD, Franchise Disclosure Document. And so I'm at home over the winter break holidays, and I'm telling my mom and my dad, I'm like, hey, look at this big legal document I have. I'm thinking of running a painting franchise next year. And my mom's like, no, you're not. And I was like, yeah, I kind of think I might. And my dad looks at me and he's like, look, you don't like it at the bank. You have always said you want to run your own business. Worst case scenario, this is a scam. If it's a scam, what's going to happen? You're going to lose all your money. You're going to probably have to drop out of school. On the plus side, you're not married. You have no kids. It'll be a good learning lesson. And my mom looks at him, and my mom is now crying, like hits my dad, is like, no way.
My son's going to jail.
What are you encouraging my son to do? Right. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So I signed a franchise agreement in December of 1989 to run a painting franchise. And it turned out it was a legitimate company called College Pro Painters, which was a Canadian-based company. They had actually really had moved down from the East Coast in Canada into the Midwest for their first year. And I ran a painting franchise in the summer of 1990. And I worked my tail off. I did everything wrong. I hired my friends, and I ran a $47,000 business in the course of the summer. I made about $8,000, and I loved it. I was given this freedom, this responsibility at a young age, and that's how I got involved with franchising. I ran a franchise for 2 years in college, joined the company full-time after I graduated from Illinois with a finance and marketing degree, and have been full-time in franchising with College Pro Painters. I spent about 15 years with that company, moving up the ranks, moved over to a sister company, Certa Pro Painters, for a couple of years, and then moved over to Handyman Connection in January of 2010, and have been with Handyman Connection ever since. So there's my short version, Lou.
Well, I love it. This is all good stuff.
There's a lesson to be learned here. If you go to art school, you set the bar so low that your parents are never disappointed with anything that you do after that. So,
hey, you think that mom and dad were excited that I was going to go run an exterior painting business?
No, but I'm saying they were disappointed because you were going to business school. And
okay.
So for the listeners, I have to sort of call out something you said, Jeff, that is so important, because we all know, us three know, that typically when somebody engages with us and has a conversation about franchise opportunities, even though that individual ends up being excited like you were, Jeff, oftentimes, like 99% of the time, they get off the phone with us and they're excited, and they immediately have a conversation with their mother, father, sister, brother, spouse, best friends. And what do they all tell them? What are you, nuts? What are you doing? You don't know anything about that. You don't have any money. You have no business experience. And that's typically how it starts, which is funny. But of course, everybody's got a fear of the unknown. So let's get back to the really important stuff now, Jeff. So when you were with Handyman Connection, at some point, you got hired there and then you became the owner. So talk about that. Talk about that transition.
When I was with all of those companies I mentioned before, College Pro Painters, Certa Pro Painters, and when I originally started with Handyman Connection, they were all owned by a great company out there called First Service Brands. And First Service Brands owns a number of franchisors in the home services space. And at the end of, or during my time with Handyman Connection, at one point, we were looking at, we were being shopped to private equity. And so having gone through some of the experiences of understanding that one day, the company that I was working for and changing a strategy on and that I was a minority shareholder in at the time, that I could wake up one day with a new boss, kind of hit me hard. And so two things. Once I went through the private equity experience of kind of going, wait, I could wake up with a new owner who has a different direction. That hit me. And the second thing is part of our strategy statement is technology leadership. And my boss, who right now, or my old boss, who right now is the chair of the IFA, I would go to him annually and I would say, hey, I need X amount of money for technology. And, eventually he looked at me and he said, you ask for the most money out of all of the brands, and you are by far not the biggest brand. He's like, I can't continue to keep funding your technology requests. So for me, in order to be able to push forward on our strategy on technology, and for what the safety and kind of going, in order to be able to execute on our strategy in the marketplace and not have the fear of somebody else walking in and being the majority owner, I ended up purchasing Handyman Connection out from First Service Brands at the end of 2013.
Love it. Love it. Love it. That's awesome. So talk about what is Handyman Connection? So people by now are thinking, okay, great. It's a handyman service. So talk about what that is exactly. What do you do?
Sure. So I'll jump in on this one. I like to summarize it pretty basically. The reason we're called Handyman Connection is because the way we like to position ourselves, or at least position the franchisees in the space, is you're the business liaison between the craftsman and the customer. We're used to going up against people that we'll call them a dude with a pickup truck and a toolbox. That's who our main competitors are.
That's
out
Stan
there.
With the van?
Yeah, same guy. Chuck in a truck, same guy there. But what we're looking at, though, is the unique spot that we're in is a lot of the times the people that we think we're competing against are actually the people that we're looking to partner with. So we're looking to be that business liaison. We want to take on the heavy lifting of the side of the business that typical tradespeople are not in love with doing. We want to look at the marketing spend. We want to look at the P&Ls. We want to look at the coaching and how we can maximize schedules and efficiencies. So what we're looking for is we're looking for somebody with a business pedigree, even to the point to when a candidate comes to me and they say, hey, I love swinging a hammer. I love turning a wrench. I get a little pit in the bottom of my stomach and I say, this may not be the right fit for you, because what I'm looking for is I'm looking for somebody to champion the business side of it. And it frankly exists in a very fragmented and broken space. So that's kind of the gist of what we do.
It's so funny that you said that the person that actually knows how to swing a hammer is not the person that you want. And of course, the common question or comment that I get all the time from people when I show them any brand, they go, but I don't know how to do that.
Perfect.
Exactly. And that's what I say. And I say, perfect. And if we're on Zoom, they look at me and go, huh? What do you mean perfect?
I've seen in my space in franchising, I've been with window cleaning companies. I've been with residential cleaning company, fixed garages, did painting, in a competing painting business to the one Jeff had been a part of. It was always something that there was this nasty cycle that the person that wanted to go out there and get on the truck and do it themselves handcuffed themselves. Yeah. So you can only grow, you can only be in so many places. And I'd frankly rather you spend that day looking for somebody else to execute that work for you than going out and doing the work yourself.
So diving a step deeper on that, and this is a serious question, that the reason you don't want the person that's comfortable swinging a hammer and doing this stuff is because they will more than likely stunt their growth and literally will be chucking the truck, staying in the van, and the guy or gal that buys the job.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's you're a coach. You know, the best person that I can look for is I want somebody to build a team. And these craftsmen are all members of the team, and you're the guy on the sidelines that's pulling the strings.
Yeah.
And if you're out on the field, you know, like, I guess what, Pete Rose was the last player coach that I ever saw. And look at what trouble he got into. So
we are not Pete Rose for this podcast, just to be clear.
Disclaimer, Pete Rose was not hurt in the making of this podcast, and he has nothing to do with Handyman Connection.
I'm a Cardinals fan. Who cares?
Yeah. So let's talk about the investment. What is the investment for a Handyman Connection? How big are the territories? All that good stuff.
So typically our investment is going to range from where, and round numbers speaking here, we can go into the minute dollars and cents here, but round numbers, somewhere between 100 to 150 would be your total investment. Okay. That would include, you know, operating capital, the franchise fees, all that wonderful stuff. You know, and pretty healthy territories. What we're looking at is we're looking at 100,000 households within a given area. And that's just the sort of key demographic area that you'll be focusing on. Obviously, there's opportunities for expansion with additional territories later on, or additional regions as your business progresses.
Got it. And who are you looking for? We know you're not looking for the people swinging a hammer. So who is it you're looking for ideally? If you want to throw out some personality or character traits or whatever it might be, who are you really looking for?
I'll give Jeff the first crack on this one.
I was gonna joke around and say art students, because apparently, you know, Luke has painted such a great picture.
Yeah.
You know, I would say our target market, and this is more Luke's area specialty. We're looking for probably a mid-level type executive, right, who has a little bit of money. You know, typically we're not looking for somebody who, you know, who has $100 million in the bank. That's not who we're looking for. But generally has either some working capital or some access to working capital through the SBA, Small Business Administration. Somebody who understands or wants to invest in themselves. Mm-hmm. Somebody who understands, is not looking for a boss per se, not looking for, you know, us to tell you everything to do. Obviously, franchising is very decentralized. You know, Luke works with these people more on a day-to-day basis. So I'll turn it over to Luke, because I'm sure, you know, outside of the art students, Luke probably has a few more specific things.
So the phrase that I've stolen, but I've heard it before, and I love this phrase. I want somebody to be heads on, not hands on. So somebody that thinks about the business, somebody that wants to exist in that space. So like we described earlier, I think another thing that we're looking for is somebody that has that entrepreneurial mindset, that wants to take the business and run with it. But I think there's also some value in somebody that sees the system. You know, we've had great success with people that, you know, have military backgrounds, somebody that's been a veteran, or somebody that, you know, sees that. With what we do, I think there's one important component that we have that a lot of franchises don't, is one, we're very open to people that are maybe, you know, engineer minded. You know, we don't necessarily need a high driving salesperson. This is not a sales role. You know, this is something where, again, as long as you have that coach's mentality, this is something that you could build to be much larger than what you would expect. Yeah. The other thing I will say is somebody that's tied up in what we do, probably not a good fit. I don't know about any of you guys, but I never knew anybody that woke up in the morning that said, man, if I could only be a Handyman Connection, you know, person, yes, my life will be complete. You know, so you can't be It's not one of those things where you got and wonderful businesses, but we're not a lash salon. We're not the hot new gym. All
right, Luke, I'll say it. There's nothing sexy about home services.
Unless you spell sexy, M-O-N-E-Y.
That is exact. You hit it. That was perfect. That's exactly right. Money is sexy.
Yeah.
See, the art students can spell too. Look at that.
6-letter words.
Yep. So overall, let's talk about, you mentioned technology earlier, Jeff. So let's talk about sort of the secret sauce, if you will, because one of the biggest things that we hear on a regular basis, well, I don't need a franchise. I can do it myself.
Sure can.
So what is so special? What do you get as a franchisee?
So, look, we've obviously all been in franchising for a number of years. And if you could sit there and answer that question as to, I can cook a burger, right? Well, I could create my own burger place. You may or may not know how to run a handyman business or a painting business or a lash business or whatever. The franchising world, what we're bringing to the table is you're looking at somebody who on day one, we are going to, teach you how to run a business. And week number one, you are starting work and we are going to help you scale a business. So there is no doubt that you could probably go out there and put a couple flyers in some people's, mailboxes or, throw a few Google ads out there and get some work. We're trying to coach and teach you how to run and scale a business. And I think that's probably the thing about franchising is the scalability. And you mentioned technology. So if you were to ask me what do I do on a day-to-day basis? So yesterday I was looking at, I spent time looking at a technology platform and asking this question. What is our world going to look like in 2030? What agreement do I want to have in place with this technology company in 2030? How would that impact our franchisees in 2030? It's 2022, right? We're about to turn into 2023. And so our role and our job, depending on who you're speaking to, is to look out into the future and go, what are we doing to help pave the way for our franchisees to continue to scale those businesses? Absolutely. And to allow our franchisees to grow those businesses, get a return on capital when they decide to move on or sell those businesses. What does that business look like? And I think that if you're just sitting there running your own handyman business or lash business, you're sitting there thinking about how am I swinging the hammer or where am I going today? You
surviving the day.
You got it. So, our role is to try to help coach, teach, prepare you for what's down the line. And that's part of what we're doing as a franchisor.
Yeah. And that's the thing people forget about. It's not just the training. It's not just the marketing. It's not just the purchasing and the technology. It's the collaboration with successful franchisees. So let's talk about the process. So of course I'm a franchise broker and there's others. You're going to get a lead. You're going to get somebody introduced to you. Luke, describe that process of, how do you know you have the right person? And, how long does this process typically take?
Well, and you don't know if you have the right person. So the key phrasing that I like to put with this is it's a mutual evaluation. So what my goal is not to get you to say yes to Handyman Connection. Sorry, Jeff, that I'm not trying to make everybody a Handyman Connection franchise. I want you to say yes or no. I frankly don't care whether you say yes or no, because what we're going to do is we'll go through, we've got it down to about a 40-day decision process. In those 40 days, we're going to have one-on-one conversations where we learn more about each other as human beings. We're going to have 2 webinars. In the 2 webinars, we're going to talk about customer acquisition. How do we build a book of business? Because that's what, frankly, everybody's worried about. When in reality, we should be talking probably more about the second webinar, which is how do we find our talent? How do we run the business? What technologies are involved? how can we make it so that we can coach you and you can coach your people? So that's covered through 2 webinars. After that, then we will get into a franchise disclosure discussion to where we will run you through that wonderful cure for insomnia that our wonderful lawyers have created.
Well, and let me just inject that a little disclaimer, but a franchise disclosure document for those of you listeners, all franchise brands present that to you after the first call, after the second call. There's 23 items in there. Within that is the item number 19 is the earnings claim that everybody gets excited about seeing, and other items that show the investment level and the range and all the detail. And so franchising is regulated by the federal government. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not. I don't know, but it is what it is, and makes some people feel safe.
Yeah. So we'll go through all of that. And, we talk about, the cool thing about the franchise disclosure document there is we'll show everything. This is what your startup costs are. This is how much operating capital we want. Kudos to Jeff. Jeff has put together an item 19 that, frankly, I think discloses more information than anybody could possibly need. But
so you mean you can make money in this business too? Yes. It's not just fun?
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on. It's a sexy business. But we'll look at that. I think most people are just dumbfounded by the size and scale of the businesses that we have. So we'll walk them through that. We'll show them what that document looks like. I then go through a process where we introduce them to our franchisees because we want them to hear from the people that have made the same decisions they're looking to make. And then the last step is I get to introduce them to Jeff and to all the other members of our high-powered team. And at the end of that, then that's just really, again, yes or no. Is this the right fit? If it's the right fit, we'll put together some documents for you. If not, it's been so wonderful meeting you. That's the process.
Do you do a face-to-face discovery day or meet the team day type thing?
We're all over the place. We will meet the candidates wherever they need to go. We're excited. It looks like we're going to have a live one here coming up in January. We've been doing them virtually.
And where do you have them?
I'm sorry?
Where do you have the discovery days?
Normally, we're having them at franchise locations. The one that's coming up is actually going to be running in conjunction with the franchisee conference that we're going to have. So the big national conference I should say we're international, I guess, technically, but the North American
Canada
conference
counts international.
Yeah. Canada, that counts.
I love it.
So we'll have that in conjunction with that. But we love doing it at the locations, as opposed to sitting them in one of our, a boardroom of our office or whatever. Let's show them what a real office, a living and breathing office looks like.
Yeah. So how many locations, we didn't discuss this yet, how many franchisees or how many territories are open and operating, and what are your future plans for that? You said you're already international, you're in Canada.
So Canada counts. We have 60 current franchisee locations, 60 franchises open. So that's always it for those in the franchising industry. It's like not only how many do you have, how many are open. So we have 60 franchisees open at this point. We have a fair amount of open territory across the U.S. and Canada, and we're excited about that.
Love it. When we were talking a little bit about possibilities and numbers and all this, a typical individual that decides on their own to start a handyman business because they're handy, that's naturally how people come up with things. You know how to make a burger, you attempt a burger restaurant because that's what you know. So I can't imagine an average handyman that's not a franchise is doing more than $250,000 a year in revenue. So I would imagine your revenue is far higher because this is essentially for empire builders, for business folks. So how do you how do you tell people that? What are they finding out in the validation process in the item 19? What are they hearing? Every brand has some pretty top franchisees for sure.
Sure. I think what's exciting about us is we're as far as I can find, we're tops in the industry when it comes to our median franchise locations. We're well north of $700,000 in our median. We're excited about what's coming out in the new FDD. Come and see us in March. But we're also excited about what our top line revenue single unit locations are doing. You know, we're north of the $2 million mark in a single
$2 million in a handyman business.
Well, here's what it is. This is what you got to tap into. And this is to the point to where I want to even have this emblazoned on the backs of our handyman's shirt. But the big question of what else? You know, the pandemic was wonderful for this. The more time my wife spent looking at the same walls of our house, the more that crack in the drywall that never seemed to bother her before is now driving her absolutely crazy. So it's, you know, Jeff does this wonderful thing at Meet the Team Day every time, where we'll sit down with the prospective candidate and we say, what do you need around the house? And they say, oh, I got a leak in the sink and I got a loose deck board and whatever. And then the spouse walks in and we say, well, what do you think needs to be done? And this list is, you know, 1.5 miles long. So it's about tapping into that honeydew list. If you can tap into that honeydew list, not only are we talking about, you know, one of the big numbers is our average job ticket is, you know, north of $700. We're pushing the $800 mark. You know, we're seeing our customers frequently throughout the year. So it's really a reoccurring revenue stream model that most people don't think about.
So well, because you have trust, and you know your franchise has trust and credibility, and people feel safe calling you anytime they need something.
Well, and we've Uberized and Amazonized, to make up a couple of terms, the handyman business. So, you know, think about who's making the decision. Again, it's none of the three people on this call. Normally, it's that college-educated, married or engaged female between the ages of 27 to 65.
That's my wife downstairs getting all kinds of stuff done now because she's retired. And she's spending plenty of time fixing things right now.
Good, good for her.
Yeah. So it's tapping into that and catering to that decision maker. You know, that's all it is. So having online presence, having the ease of accessing us, and then, you know, re-engaging with that customer every 30 days. You know, that's the secret to success.
So, and just I'm sorry, cut you off, Lance, just to clarify. So our average shop size in our FDD is $933, and our average, not median, but average franchisee in our disclosure, our FDD item 19, is $715,675.
Great numbers.
Just
great numbers.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah, off the top of your head. So, you know, a lot of people these days are talking about, well, what happens to XYZ franchise in the event of a recession? And the beautiful part of what you guys do, I would imagine, is you're probably in a good spot.
We, pardon me, we are. The cool thing about our business is, and you know, we didn't know this 3 years ago, but our business is fairly recession-proof, fairly riot-proof. We didn't have to get closed down, or we don't have storefronts, like, you know, if there's civil unrest going on. Right. We are pandemic-proof. We were deemed an essential business across the U.S. And when a recession happens, when your toilet breaks, you tend to get that thing fixed.
Yes.
Regardless of a recession going on or not. You may trade down and kind of go, I'm not going to do a massive kitchen remodel or bathroom remodel, but you tend to still get things fixed. And the good thing for us, and we're seeing it a bit out there again, you know, you see the housing starts slowing down a bit, which is actually for our industry pretty good, because a lot of that labor force then comes back into our marketplace.
Yes.
So we're seeing more handyman, more craftsmen, more carpenters, electricians fall back into our marketplace. And because, again, our average job size this past year was $933, people are still getting that work done. And we're not a fad. We're not something that you sit there and go, you know what, that's a trend. So we, you know, I don't want to say that, you know, we're good in a recession. As long as we don't go into a depression, we've seen our business picking up during, you know, tougher times, because we have an increased labor force. And unfortunately, or fortunately for us, things continue to break in people's homes.
Yeah.
So
we say that as my 6-year-old and 11-year-old comes storming through the house like a herd of elephants.
There you go.
So if you were going to look at your top 10% of high performing franchisees, or let's just say out of 60 franchisees, you know, the top 10 period, what did they all do before? Obviously they didn't swing a hammer for a living, as we discussed for the most part, but what did they do? You have a teacher, you have a lawyer, you have an engineer. I mean, they literally from every walk of life.
Yes. The easy answer is, you know, as I roll my eyes, which looks great on camera, to sit there and think through some of the franchisees as far as their backgrounds. But you know, I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I get to hear family stories. Like Luke will have them, you know, before they're awarded a franchise, I get the opportunity to sit down and hear their stories. And it's so interesting, you know, to go, what's your story? Like, what has brought you here today? And you hear the stories from, I was a teacher, or I used to do marketing for this large company, or I used to run, I was speaking to somebody yesterday who they ran HR for a very large company. And she was telling me how she had her best month ever. And, wow, you know, we have had, you know, the head of HR for a Fortune 500 company run a franchise. We've had people that have been the ex-banker or I don't know how many lawyers we have. I don't know if we have any lawyers, but we certainly, you know, would see people from a variety of industries, and you hear their stories. And, you know, sometimes it's, you know, you sit there and you go, why are you looking? And part of them goes, well, I was told I no longer have my job, so I have to figure out something, right? So there's not one specific background or industry that, you know, we would sit there and say, you know, we're seeing people, you know, more from. And Luke, you speak to more people than I do, so I don't know if you would.
No, I think you're spot on. It's what I love about what we do here is because it's not necessarily sales driven, you know, from the perspective that we need the franchisee to be a salesperson. There's a lot more opportunities, you know, like one of our top performers, our young guns, if we want to call him that, one of our new franchisees that's less than a year. Yesterday I was on the phone with him and he was showing me pictures from when he was part of the logistics team that moved around that giant wrestling apparatus for the WWE and, you know, did other things with sports. So we got cool stories like that. And then we've got, you know, hey, I was just, you know, I was running a family and I decided I wanted to run a business. You know, the range is huge. It's again, the coaching mentality. Who wants to, if you can manage a family, you can manage our business. You know, who wants to run this? And are you comfortable? I think the hardest question is, do you feel comfortable talking with people that are blue collared employees? You know, that's the biggest jump, I think, for me, is somebody that was a, you know, type A executive running other type A executives. There's a little bit of disconnect and a little bit of culture shock from going there to what we do here.
But that's naturally going to be part of the training process to show them. And, you know, half the battle is knowing what you don't know. And you guys obviously include that into the training curriculum.
Well, and I would say one of our big advantages that we have over most franchises is frankly the way that we look at recruiting. You know, if we look at our operations team and what they do, they all come from recruiting backgrounds. We have people that exclusively work with franchisees and talent acquisition. And you know, that's the biggest hurdle for any business. If you're a sandwich shop or you're a gym, everybody's got help wanted signs up. And I think the way that we're dealing with talent acquisition and frankly, the value that it adds to the people that are joining our ranks as franchisees, but also the way that the value added to the people that are coming on as handymen or craftsmen, as we like to call them. You know, that's a different way of coming to the marketplace.
Yeah. Let's talk about marketing. So All right, you join Handyman Connection. How do I talk about customer acquisition, and how do you blow somebody's territory up in a good way? That is.
Yeah, well, we start small. You market with a laser. You don't market with a shotgun. Go after that key demographic group. Let's focus on those zip codes, and let's not spread ourselves too thin. That's the simplest form of it. But again, it's about digital methods. It's about still using a little bit of direct mail, but for us, the big thing is the re-engagement. We look at the high percentage of repeat and referred customers that we have. It's about establishing that trust and putting less and less money towards a deep marketing campaign, but let's reinvest into the business and frankly put some money in your pocket.
And you know what? Because I was just looking down, Luke just mentioned it. Our repeat and referral, our average, and this is again is listed in our item 19. Our average number of repeat and referral leads for a franchisee last year was 862.
Wow.
In other words, we're seeing, our franchisees have continuing people come back to them annually. And so a big part of our marketing is because, look, the great thing about our business is, and Luke referred to this earlier, you may get us, have us come out to your home to do something, right? Fix that plank in the door, fix the screen door, hang a picture. Inevitably, something else needs to be done in your home, or something else will break in the next couple of months. Right. So we are easy to be top of mind every 2, 3, 4 months, and we'll see people use us oftentimes 3, 4 times a year. So part of our marketing is definitely on the repeat and referral side. And we do all the standard stuff as far as marketing also. And you know what? Maybe one of your listeners has seen or heard of us. We're a prize on The Price is Right.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. We you can win Handyman Connection for a day. So we are one of the one of the prizes on there. It's it's interesting. One day when I had my mom call me and she's like, "Are you guys on The Price is Right?" And it's like, yes, we are.
I love it. You win. Wait, do you win Jeff for the day? Is that what happened?
Categorically, yes.
Well, then you'd have to place a value on me, and then you would go you can't go lower than the $1, right? So that's the problem. Is you can't say I don't get value for Jeff, during the day,
I told you we don't want you swinging a hammer or turning a wrench. That applies to Jeff too. So.
All right, guys. So final words of wisdom, final thoughts for both of you. You've unloaded a lot of good information here for everyone. Luke, you first. Jeff will get the last word.
Yeah, he always does, regardless of what would happen anyway. But it's a process. Have fun with it and be honest. Be honest with yourself with that, whatever business venture you're coming into. There's going to be plenty of people. I played a game with the candidates that I was working with over Thanksgiving. Tell me what crazy Uncle Larry is going to tell you the most outlandish reason and why you shouldn't get into business. I want to have that because, I want to put that in my arsenal of reasons not to do this. But, there's going to be the naysayers, but that's why you look to a franchise that has the dedicated team of professionals that we do. And frankly, we want to grow. We want to grow aggressively, but we also want to grow with the right people because, with Jeff being the owner, CEO, and president, he's going to be with you. This isn't like some conglomerate that, you're just franchise number 32. This is something that we're very passionate about. We look at our franchisees like family. So we've got a good blend of things that will go into this. So, honesty is the key.
Awesome. Jeff?
So at our Meet the Team Day, I usually close and I refer, I have a picture of my house. And it's kind of a weird picture. And it's this, I don't even know what it is, like this colorful thing. And it's holding this box over its head. And it's the box, it says something to the effect of, all the stuff you said you wanted to do. And underneath, it says that only weighs a lot if you didn't find the time to do all the things you said you were going to do. And so I mentioned earlier, over my career, I've had the opportunity to sit with a number of people. And it's amazing how you almost hear 9 out of 10 times people tell the story of, I've always wanted to run my own business, right? It's always been my dream. And we inevitably go, like, what's holding you back, right? And it's that box of stuff. And I also ask people, I'm like, okay, imagine yourself, and you know, many people have kids, and you sit there and we call it a lemonade moment. And we call it, you know, you're on your porch, front porch, nice sunny day, and your kids or people you love eventually come up to you, and you're drinking your glass of lemonade or wine or beer or your cocktail. And they ask if you're happy, right? And all of us are going to sit there and you're going to go, ooh, right? Like, let's assume that these are young adults or, you know, in their 20s that are asking you this question, or people that love you. And you're going to pause, right? Because you're going to go, ooh, like, am I really happy? And they're going to go, you know, are you happy with the decisions you made? And we're all going to have those thoughts that go through our head, like, am I happy with the decisions I made in life and in love? And, you know, if they push you to go, are you really happy? And I always encourage people, as you sit back and go, how would you answer that question? A lot of us are in positions and we work for companies because that's what we thought we needed to do. We thought that once you graduate college or you get your degree, you go work for somebody. And it's amazing that, again, the majority of these people I speak to have always said, you know, I've always wanted to run my own business. And I think there's a big fear there. And you know, as we get older, we become a little bit more reminiscing, and you kind of go like, you know, is it really the safe route to have gone and work for the corporation that may lay you off at some point? Is it? Are you happy? And so I always encourage people, I'm like, look, if you've always wanted to do something, go. There's always excuses out there. Always. Help move them out of the way. And what advice would you give your kids? Would you be happy if your kids gave you all of the reasons and excuses while they didn't chase their dreams? So I always pause and just kind of go like, look, if you've always wanted to run your own business and have the opportunity to really go for it, franchising is an excellent opportunity for people to work with you, to coach you, to help support your dreams. And go for it.
Yep. Absolutely. What a great place to end it, Jeff. That's awesome. You know, people always talk about timing, and a lot of people complain that it's not the right time. Well, when will be the right time?
You know what? And look, we look back and you go, when's the right time to start a business? During a pandemic? I mean, it turned out it was a great time for the home services area. A pandemic. Absolutely. Who would have thought that? Or, you know, a recession? A recession's a pretty good time to run. You know, there's Absolutely. A lot you can always come up with, and there's going to be something else, Lance. We don't know what. There's going to be another excuse down the line. You know, exactly. Oh, so-and-so, or something happened, or, you know, blah, blah, blah.
But the great news is we are your resources, and we are here to help. Luke and Jeff, thank you so much. Handyman Connection. And I appreciate you guys being here, okay?
Great. Appreciate it. Thanks, Lance.
I'll talk to you guys both very soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening today. Please like, follow, and subscribe. This is Lance Graulich. Until next time.